Disruption everywhere. You have seen nothing yet. Yesterday I talked about change and how change is an opportunity as much as a threat, and that if we embrace change, we can make it an opportunity and make it drive off on it rather than seeing it as a challenge. I just spent the last 2 days on at CogX artificial intelligence conference in London, and I just came back from the Exponential Transformation book launch, which is a book, Exponential Organization, that was written by Salim Ismail, who I met at Singularity University. And Exponential Transformation is about implementing change at companies so they can navigate industry disruption. Anyway, my takeaway from these 2 days is, and while I've spent in the past a lot to talk about personal stuff, relationships, health, etc., like we also have to see the bigger picture as the world is evolving. And the world is the world is continuously changing, of course, but if you think about what has happened in the last decade, so a bit more than a decade ago, the iPhone was invented. And then about a decade ago, the App Store kind of started really to thrive. And that's the reason why nowadays we can do anything on our phone, because someone just can create an app. 2 decades ago, we didn't even have mobile phones. So while we don't feel like the world is changing dramatically every day, it's because these things are kind of like, small changes. But this rate of change is accelerating. So while a lot of things have changed, right, nowadays we order everything on Amazon, which we didn't really 10 years ago. Facebook was tiny. I think it was started in 2004. So 10 years ago, it was about probably in all the universities, and people outside of it started using it. I think they just had launched like pictures at Facebook. So this is what happened in the last decade. Think about now with Instagram, Snapchat, and really everything has changed, the way we communicate and how teenagers grow up today, right? Everything has changed. So the next decade is gonna be much faster, and we as humans and our organizations and institutions, and we're seeing already them breaking, like, I've written an article when Brexit was decided. I think I wrote the article just after that, 3 years ago, and also about the whole Trump campaign. And I said, is democracy broken, or is democracy dead? And really, the world we have built has not been built for the change that is happening now. And it has started, and it's just going to accelerate. And we don't really embrace this in our day-to-day life, but it's really important to understand that, because it will change everything, and it will throw around your life in so many aspects. So how health is changing, democracy is changing, energy will become super cheap, so it will also offer huge opportunities. So we can really create an incredibly beautiful world, but it will be painful at times, that change. I think in the long run, it may be amazing, and there's even a potential, and I won't spend too much time on this, but there's a potential that the world, basically there will be no more work, because AI and robots will be able to do everything so much cheaper, basically at near marginal zero cost, and energy will become free, and water will become free. We can extract it from the air and desalinate it, because again, energy is free. Education will become abundant and available to anyone who has a device, which everyone will have. And so it will be massive shifts. But our current systems, organizations, also because of decentralized autonomous organizations, companies will cease to exist, because they're just no longer necessary. People can just come together on a project basis, etc. So all these tools that we've seen already with the internet enabled, like software as a service, everyone can start their own company now, because you just rent server space from Amazon. Previously, you had to buy computers and servers. So the cost of doing stuff will come down, and so suddenly everybody will be an entrepreneur. But it also means everything will be constantly disrupted from left and right, and so technology itself be a disruptor, and people building on top of technology will be a disruptor. And it just challenges all our institutions. For example, if you think about democracy and representative democracy, that was developed because there was no instantaneous feedback, right? Someone had to gallop up with a horse from one state to another or from one city to another to communicate. And so you elected people to make those decisions, but nowadays everybody could have a phone and just vote instantly on any matter. So you could have a direct democracy. But then of course there's the challenge of information and fake news and all of that, and we're overwhelmed with news. And by the way, you should stop watching news on a daily basis because it's just a waste of time. As in, like, news are a business and they feed you negative information, and so you get this bias that actually the world is breaking down when it's not. Actually, the world has never been in a better state. Yes, there's plenty of problems, but if you look at any traditional measure, we're better off. Now, we might not all feel better about it because we're more stressed, etc., and it's overwhelming, but that one reason is because you're watching news every day. So I would spend that time, and of course, I've spent many times in my life watching a lot of news, especially around Brexit. I've been following a lot. But the reality is that this time can be used much better. You want to be on top of what's going on, but you don't want to follow it minute by minute, because also it is a total skew towards negative information, because your brain is primed to pick up on negative information much more than positive one, and hence news feeds you all the problems, all the planes that crash, all the people that die, this new sickness, etc. I'm not saying it's completely irrelevant, but you get a biased reality. And that's why people, when they watch too much news, they feel like the world is coming down, when that's not the case. Anyway, the topic is change. There is going to be so much change in every area of your life. Nothing is going to be anymore like it was. And we've seen a lot of this change, but the rate of change is accelerating. And it will be a really disruptive time over the next decade or two, until this all comes hopefully in a beautiful balance, and we will live in a much more easier and and potentially in a work-free world where we just do what we love. That would be the kind of ideal outcome. Of course, there's other scenarios. But in this time of rapid and accelerating change, you want to be really aware of what's going on. So you want to understand, how is AI going to impact your life, your job. You want to train your children very differently than we have done it. The current school curriculum is not going to be good. It's not going to prepare people for this world anymore. You will also have to learn to constantly relearn everything and constantly question everything. And I'm a strong believer in that to understand the world or something in the world today, you have to really understand everything. And of course, you can't understand everything, but you have to try to comprehend as much as possible. And that's really what I'm trying to convey here, and also what I've done and continue to do for myself, really to understand everything. You need to understand exponential technologies. You need to understand human well-being and how we work as a human. You need to understand health. You need to understand work, relationships, spirituality, purpose of life. All these things matter, and it's a really exciting journey. It shouldn't be a chore. It's an opportunity, because once you start understanding these trends, etc., and you kind of go out of your daily routine of doing the same every day, you will start spotting huge opportunities also to create a better life for yourself, to live smarter, to seize opportunities that all this change brings. And so this is not a threat, this is an opportunity if you work with it. And so I can just encourage you, there's so much rich information now, so rather than watching the news every day, how bad everything is, try to understand what trends are going on, how your industry, how your area of expertise is affected, how, take a random example briefly before I stop, like climate change. Coastal regions are likely to be flooded if you don't do anything. So land, more remote land and higher land will be more valuable. Also will be much more easily accessible once we have the flying taxi, the flying Uber, or and all of that. So these things, they sound like, sci-fi, but they will happen over the next decade or two and much faster. And once you start understanding and embracing and working with these things, then incredible opportunities arise and life will never be the same again.